Hello, Workplace Math 10 students. I'm hoping that everyone is doing well and that you're keeping safe and healthy. Unfortunately, education needs to carry on, and so we are going to be continuing learning about workplace math through online options. So the Google Classroom that I had set up that you have all accessed before will continue to be where I will be adding and providing information for the various topics. So the next topic that we're going to be talking about, carrying on with the unit on similar figures, is we're going to be talking about how we can find a missing side of a similar figure. And so before we get started on that, I want to review a little bit about what we have learned and what we've talked about so far with regards to similar figures. So if you recall, we've already talked about the characteristics of a similar figures. And one of the characteristics is that they have the same shape but different sizes. The other thing that they have in common is that they have corresponding angles that are equal. Now that's not to say that every single angle in each of the shapes is exactly the same, but it means that if we take a look at the largest angle in one figure, that is going to be the exact same degrees as the largest angle in the other figure. Likewise, the corresponding sides are not going to be equal because they are different sizes, but they are going to be proportional. And what that means is basically that when we look at the longest side on one of the shapes, it will correspond with the longest side on the other shape, and they will be exactly proportional. And this concept is exactly what we're going to be using in order to find a missing side. So what I want to look at right now is that you are going to have an assignment. This is your assignment. It's called Monster Mysteries. And Monster Mysteries, hopefully you'll find it a little bit enjoyable, is going to ask you to solve a number of missing side lengths. And when you get the answer to that missing side length, then whatever that answer is, you are going to apply the letter I in this case up here to whatever that answer is. And after you've finished all of this, you will have the answers to these two questions here. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at how we can do this. So the very first question I'm going to work through with you is this one here, the I question. Which says find E if A equals 8, D equals 22, and B equals 4. So going over here, I've just taken a print screen of this, and you can see that this question is here, and we're looking at this question right here. So once again, we're trying to find E if A equals 8, D equals 22, and B equals 4. Now what we need to consider here is that we need to consider what the corresponding side is on this triangle to E. Now we have E right here, and obviously if we look at this and look at the shape of this, we can hopefully see that the corresponding side to this is B. So what we have is we have E in my equation, and I chose to put it, I could have put it at the top of the fraction, but I chose to put it E at the bottom. And the corresponding side length to that is B, and I put the value, the length of that, 4 up top. Now, we also are told what the length is of A and D. So A and D we are told. And if we look at their corresponding side lengths here, I see that A corresponds with D over here. Now remember I put B, the length for B, which is 4, up top in this fraction. And notice that B is part of this triangle here. So the corresponding letter that I know that is on this triangle as well is the letter A, that's corresponding side length A, and therefore I'm going to put that 8 that relates to the length of A at the top of the fraction because I put the B length there as well. Now likewise, the D here corresponds with the E here, and so therefore I'm going to put the 22 length, that is the length of D, down below. Now once we get this fraction this way, what we can do then is we can simply cross multiply, like we've learned before, by these values. So when I cross multiply 22 times 4, I'm going to get 8. Now, if you recall from our classes before, what I tell you to do with the leftover number 8 is I told you to divide that. And the reason why is if I had cross multiplied it, I would have gotten 8e. But really what I need to do now to solve for e is I need to get e by itself. And the way I do that is by dividing both sides by 8. And when I do that, what I'm going to end up with is I'm going to end up with e by itself. And when I divide 88 by 8, I get 11. Now what we can see hopefully is that the side length of e now is 11. But what I need to do then is I need to put that onto my worksheet. So this is what we're going to do here then, is I'm going to go up to my worksheet here, and where I see the letter or the number 11, I am going to put the letter I. And I will put another letter I just above this 11 here that occurs. And so as I progress through this assignment, we should eventually end up getting, all of these letters filled in. So let's take a look at another question. So if I scroll down here, the next question here, this is for the letter T, is I need to find D if B equals 6, E equals 15, and A equals 8. So switching back here to this sheet here, what we can see is that this question is written here. And I'm just going to erase these off so that they're not kind of in our way, so they're not going to be confusing. But basically what I need to do here now is I need to look to see where D is. So D is right here. And the corresponding side to on the other triangle is here, A. So what I've done is I put D at the bottom, and I put the length of A at the top, just like we did before. Now the other two side lengths I know, which are B and E. So I know B and E, and I look at these, and yes, they're corresponding to each other. B and E correspond to each other. But remember, I put the letter 8, or letter A, which is the side length of 8, at the top. So therefore, I need to put the side length of B, which is in the same triangle as this, A and B are in the same triangle, up and top as well. So I'm going to put the 6 up top here. And likewise then, where I have the D, which is at the bottom of my fraction, the denominator, I need to put the E, because D and E are in the same triangle together, I need to put that number down at the below. So at this point here, once again, it's as simple as cross multiplying. So 15 times 8 is going to give us 120. And then I'm going to divide by the leftover number, which is 6, right? Divide by that leftover number, which is 6. And what I end up with is 120 divided by 6 is 20. Now, that is the answer to this question. 20 is the answer. So if I were to go over now to my monster mysteries, I can see that the letter that corresponds with this answer is T. So I'm going to scroll up here, and I'm going to look to see where the number 20 is on here. And oh, there's only one occurrence of it, so I'm going to put the letter T up here. So I'm going to write that letter T right above the number 20. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, I'm going to do one last one, and I'm just going to erase this off just so we can kind of clear it and keep everything neat. But basically, the last question I'm going to do is actually on a slightly different one. This is this triangle here, and I'm going to do this one that relates to P. So if I go back over here now, the very last example I'm going to give you is this one here. So we're trying to find R if Z equals 5, X equals 2 1/3, and T equals 12. Now, what we don't know is R, and R is right here. So the corresponding side to this is X. So we have R here, and excuse me, we have X, and I'm going to write X as 2.33. Now, how did I know that it was 2.33? Well, what we can do is if we're not sure how we can write the decimal equivalent of 1/3, we can always use a calculator, and if I plug in 1 divided by 3, I end up with 0.333 repeated. So if I have 2.33 here, it's going to be very close to the equivalent of 2 1/3. So I'm going to put that number up here. I'm going to put R here. And then the two other values that we have are Z and T. So Z is over here and T is over here. Now notice that I put the value for X, I put the value for X at the top of this fraction, 2.33, and X is in the same triangle as Z. So I'm going to put the Z value of 5, the length of 5, at the top as well. And over here, where R is where also T is in that same triangle. So I'm going to put the length of T, which is 12, at the bottom here to correspond with where R is at the bottom. So at this point here, I simply need to cross multiply by these two values that I have. So that's 12 times 2.33. And when we plug that in the calculator, it's not going to come out exactly at 28, but it's going to be very close, and we could just round up because it essentially is going to be that if we had kept it at 2.33 repeating. Now, we're going to need to divide by the leftover value of 5 on both sides of this if we wanted to. But when it's all said and done, if we take 28 and divide by 5, we're going to come up with a value of 5.6. Now, if we look back, and I will look at that in a second, we're not going to see a value of 5.6 there. What we're going to see is we're going to see a value of 5 3/5. Now, how is 0.6 the same as 3/5? Well, basically, 0.6 is the same as 6 over 10, right? And if we were to simplify that, because both of these can be divided by 2, right? Both of these can be divided by 2. And if we divide both these by 2, what we end up with is 3/5. So that's why 5.6 is the same as saying 5 3/5. Now, once again, we are looking to put the letter P here for whatever value appears as 5 3/5. So when I go back over to Monster Mysteries here, look up here and look for 5 3/5, once again, we're looking to put the letter P here, wherever 5 3/5 is. So I'm looking across here, and the only place I see 5 3/5 is right here. So I would write in there, under 5 3/5 the letter P. Now, hopefully that all makes sense to you. Thank you for watching, and please try this worksheet. When you are finished it, there are two ways you can submit this. One, if you were to have printed this off and done this all, you can just simply take a photo of that and then upload that photo into your Google Classroom and then submit it that way. If you're not quite sure how that works, please email me and I can clearly show you how to do that. Thanks very much for watching. Take care.